Last week, Duke talked about, and then everything changed. So we can all think about those times in our lives when we were just moving along, everything was going okay, and then boom, something happened. Changed our lives. So today, I want to talk about the exact opposite. I want to talk about that fact that most days we just sort of go along. We get up in the morning, we do the same thing, we sort of have a little routine. We go along, we get along, go along, same thing sort of happens. And I'm hoping that some of you have this other experience as well on a daily basis. Does anybody have voices in their head? Commenting. A little here, a little there about what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong or what you could do a little bit better. Telling you, dang, what on earth were you thinking, you idiot? That little voice in our head. Sometimes it's very encouraging. And sometimes it's downright mean. And yet it is this voice in our head that is often what is causing our life to unfold the way we are experiencing it. And so I thought today we would talk about these tiny little snippets, these little moments of our lives that suddenly add up to what we call living. Many of you know in Unity, there's two principles that really relate to this. One is that our thoughts create our reality. And the second is the power of prayer and meditation. And so our thoughts create our reality makes a sense of that. I must be making this all up, right? Yes, we're all just making it up. And so we get a chance to decide, just like what Donna was talking about a few weeks ago, we get to decide what we want to make up. But first, we need to be aware of the voices in our head. That is the place to start. Carl Jung is a psychologist who said that until we make the unconscious conscious, we will see our life as happening as simply fate or accident or destiny. We will not realize that it is we who are making things happen. And so when I was reflecting on this last week, it came to mind that I was in the corporate world for a long time, and for the first 10 years, I had this thought that I didn't realize was driving me. I thought they were going to fire me. Every day, I sort of had this subconscious thought that somebody was going to figure out that I really didn't have any earthly idea what I was doing. The ruse was going to be up. Has anybody had this feeling? Have you ever had that experience? Don't look behind the veil. For 10 years, they promoted me. They gave me extra money. And I kept thinking, they're just doing this to fire me. What is that Peter principle where they get you up there far enough where you don't know what you're doing, and then they have a reason to fire you because you don't know what you're doing. Now, after about 10 years, and they hadn't fired me, they hadn't suggested that they were going to fire me, nobody had talked about firing me, I started to get an idea that maybe this was just a voice in my head. Maybe it was my own internal anxiety that was causing me to think that something was going wrong. And I would like to tell you from that moment forward that I was able to live a life of ease and to go to work and have a sense of success and accomplishment. But instead, that little voice in my head analyzed the situation and assessed that the reason that I had been so successful, because I had been worried for 10 years, and that the reason that I had gotten promoted was because I was afraid of being fired all the time. So I then convinced myself that I needed to keep thinking those thoughts because that was the only reason I was succeeding. How crazy is that? And that was all going up in my head like this, and I tell you, it was there and I didn't know it, and when I didn't know it, I couldn't stop it. And so I arrived at Unity a bit of a mess, things swirling around in my head, things that I had done, behaviors that I wasn't proud of and I was confused about and I didn't understand. Anybody ever show up here at this doorstep like that? So I came to this place that talked about my thoughts were creating my reality, and I first understood that at the visceral, uncomfortable level, and yet I didn't know what to do about it. And that's what this place helps you do. I want to talk about two things today about the way we change our experience of the world. And the first is to begin by compassionately listening to that voice in your head. There's a woman named Aura Glazer, and she's written a book called The Value of Compassion. And she says that normally when we hear that voice in our head, we have some of these various responses. See if they sound like anything you might have done at one point or time. We hear a voice in our head that is scary or frightening. And the first thing we often try to do is avoid it, get distracted. I think I'll have a cocktail. That often makes the voice go away. Or I'll smoke a cigarette, or I'll eat a pie. I find that that helps keep the voice down as well. So avoidance and denial kind of work a little bit. They work for a while to keep these voices at bay. They are still there. They're telling me, they're being judgmental. They're telling me everything that's wrong with me, what I am just unworthy of. And so sometimes we try denial. I'm not listening to you. I don't care what you say. I'm just going to pretend like that voice isn't there. It seems to make them more encouraged. They get louder. They have a bigger part in my life that I don't want them to play. Sometimes I tried blaming others. This is a really awesome strategy. You are the reason why I am having these crazy voices in my head. I'm saying this to Bill as if I were married to him. That worked for a while too. And then sometimes we just wallow in them. I'm a mess. It's never going to get any better. Oh, nobody has it as bad as I do. It's never going to work. Anybody ever wallowed? Yeah, it kind of works for a while as well. And then there's another strategy that I just discovered when I came to Unity. And it was called the spiritual bypass. I'm too spiritual to have these thoughts. I go to Unity. I know better. I can't tell anybody that I'm depressed or sad or addicted or afraid or resentful or angry. I go to Unity. I'm supposed to be happy all the time. And that doesn't make the voices go away either. So what shall we do? We've tried to avoid them. We've tried to deny them. We've wallowed in them. We've blamed others. We've pretended like we know better, and we probably do, but they still don't go away. And so this is the moment when we can compassionately listen to those voices and make friends with them and to even transform them into allies. I was really proud of myself this week. On Monday, I decided what I was going to talk about. And so I gave the title, it's in the bulletin, Letting Go of the Person You Used to Be. Ignore that. As I started to reflect on it, I realized, isn't that what we're always trying to do? To deny, to avoid, to pretend like all that stuff didn't happen in the past. I wanted to let go of it. I wanted to pretend like that was another person. That might have worked a couple of times. That wasn't me who did that. That was somebody else that married you. It wasn't me. But it is me. It was me. And it is all of me. And so I realized when I struggled through thinking about those voices in our head that they are part of us. And imagine what it would feel like that instead of trying to deny them, avoid them, wallow in them, or bypass them, that we simply accepted them. Hello, I know you. I've heard you before. To make friends with them. To be okay with being complicated, frustrated, sometimes angry, sometimes resentful, sometimes messed up people. Can you relate to that fact that you are absolutely fabulous? And the reason is because of every single thing that happened to you up until this point right now. Whatever happened in your life caused you to be who you are today. Do we need to let go of any of that? Do we need to deny it? What if we embraced it? What if we even went so far as to say, I'm grateful. Thank you for letting me screw up so much. Somebody asked an interesting question in the discussion group last week. Did Jesus have to screw up to get so smart? I Googled it all week. I couldn't find an answer. I don't know if they were covering it up or there was some kind of conspiracy theory or what the story was. But doesn't it seem like the people that have climbed great mountains, that have done great things, have often been the people who have had great difficulties in their lives? And that is all of us. So we have this option to choose to embrace ourselves in all the ickiness and the scariness and the ugliness, that which you might be ashamed of, that which you might be afraid of. Embrace that too. And that's what made you exactly who you are in this moment. And that is what gives you the power to choose differently. So the idea that our thoughts create our reality is not just about compassionately listening to what is going on in our head, but recognizing this incredible power that you have within yourself to choose differently. There's another book I love called Crucial Conversations. It's a great book that the majority of the problems that we cause for ourselves in relationships are the conversations that we don't have. The conversations that are difficult, the conversations that we know might irritate the other person or might cause some conflict or have an outcome that we can't control. And so I thought about this in the context of embracing all of who we are, and we can have a crucial conversation with ourselves. What would it feel like to simply be honest with yourself and admit to yourself those things that you may try to run away from, those things you may try to hide, those things you may be ashamed of? And just be okay with them. What did we learn? What could we do differently next time? How much power it gives back to us when we embrace ourselves in all our complexity and go forth with a sense of enthusiasm and optimism that we have ability to change our thoughts and choose more wisely. I saw a documentary a few months ago. It was called Bob and the Monster. And it was about a guy named Robert Forster. He's a nationally recognized addiction counselor. And Bob had a heroin addiction. And it took Bob 12 times in rehab in order to straighten up. And I was always wondering, you know, they had it after Bob fixed everything, had a wonderful life, all was good, he was helping people. What would it have been like to talk to Bob about round 5? Imagine Bob in rehab in round 5. Most of the people may have given up on him. This guy's never going to get it. Maybe he got close to dying. And yet he never gave up. It took 12 times. If it takes 12 times, if it takes 15 times, does it really matter how many times it takes? Don't give up. That's the power. What we have within us is to not give up. The unity principle of the power of prayer and meditation is that through that time that we spend with ourselves, that we can have the crucial conversations to tell ourselves, this is what will make a difference. And so the last image I wanted to leave you with is one that I think is helpful when we think about how we go through life. We can embrace, all of us, everything you've ever done in your life, everything you've ever said, every crisis you've ever faced. That is who you are, and that is like the ocean. In this moment, you have within you that place of stillness, just like the ocean. At the depths of your being, there is wisdom and compassion and loving kindness that is innate and unlimited. And all those things that happen on the surface, the thoughts that cross through our head, the emotions that arise that are difficult, the people that come in and out of our lives that cause us trouble. Just waves on the ocean. Can you imagine the power of being at the depth of the sea and the stillness that you would feel? That no wave, no difficult thought, no difficult emotion, no difficult sensation, no crisis, nothing would be able to stir and take away that sense of the depth of stillness at your being. This is the power of knowing that your thoughts create your reality, of accepting yourself in all your humanity, and deciding to choose a more skillful path. And I would also say that even just by showing up today, you've encouraged somebody. By your mere presence of being here, we are here today as a spiritual community. Research shows that just by sitting in this room together for a period of time, that our heartbeats start to synchronize with each other. That you can unconsciously support and encourage everybody else in this room who might be going through a trial or tribulation, and you can give them that innate love, support, and encouragement that you have within you. That is the power that we have, that we can use. And we don't have to let go of the person we used to be. We can bring them along, because that's what made us who we are today. So I thought we would take that into meditation, to have this opportunity to listen to those voices in our heads, to make friends with them, turn them into allies, to no longer turn away, to embrace them and see them as part of our power. Want to give it a try?
Spirit to speak through you. To listen with compassion. And to allow that innate knowing to arise. Whatever that struggle might be. Whatever sense of suffering might arise. We can allow that innate compassion and wisdom that is within every single one of us. Soothing balm that heals our wounds. Divine wisdom that shows us the way. And to sit for a few moments in gratitude for whatever came before. That enabled you to have this exact moment. In the silence. You can feel the power of prayer and meditation. You can use these powerful practices to transform our lives. Whatever the situation might be. You can simply be grateful. And so it is. Bless and inspire all who gather here with patience, with joy, with hope, with love and peace. Show how the Holy Spirit changes life.
Well, this is somewhat of a bittersweet moment. Our wonderful Joanna Gefford, who's been with us for 6 years, is leaving Kansas City to go to Cedar Falls, Iowa, to the University of Northern Iowa. She has blessed us with her voice so many times. She's a delight to be in our spiritual family, and this is her farewell song, Joanna Gefford.